Okay, granted, Avatar: The Last Airbender is an amazingly written show. But like any other series, there are 1 or 2 or 10 things that raised a few eyebrows. How did the Fire Nation reach those high-perched Air Nomad temples? Is Toph's lie detector ability really that good? Does Zuko even know the basics of firebending? Well, in today's Avatar video, I'll take a quick look at some of the things that made viewers scratch their heads while watching the show. Let's do this. Yip yip! The first strange thing on today's list has to do with the Fire Nation's attack on the Air Nomads. Airbenders, besides Zahir that is, are known to be peaceful people. Their martial arts techniques are all about defense, which makes their 4 temples located high in the mountains hard to reach without using a flying bison or an airbending staff. And yet, the Fire Nation had a 99.9% rate of success destroying all 4 temples scattered across the world. At the time, airships didn't exist, and the only way for someone from the Fire Nation to get to these temples would have been to use dragons. But since they almost brought them to extinction, and it seems only Fire Lords and Avatars are allowed to ride them, I doubt Sozin's dragon can take the whole Fire Nation army on its back. Sure, they can propel themselves up using firebending, but there's surely a limit on their reach. It's also hard to believe that the Fire Nation struck all 4 temples at the exact same time and none of the Air Nomads escaped to warn the others. There's something quite strange about the whole situation. Might it have been an inside job? Plot twist! Remember that annoying passport attendant in Full Moon Bay? The grumpy lady who was in charge of validating passports for refugees who were hoping to travel to Ba Sing Se? The terrifying attendant who could seal anyone's fate with her almighty stamp welcomed Team Avatar after having that poor cabbage merchant's cart destroyed by a platypus bear. At first, she angrily refused to let the gang take the ferry since none of them had a valid passport to go through. That is, until Toph showed her passport indicating that she was a Bei Fong and owned that little witch. Bam! But what if Toph wasn't with them that day? Well, there was actually another way to get through. When Sokka pointed out that Aang was the Avatar, she showed them how people have used that excuse cosplaying as airbenders before. But the thing is, Aang could have easily proven that he's the Avatar by doing one simple thing: airbending. But I guess he got a little bit scared when she threatened to call security after seeing what happened to that cabbage cart. We don't want little Momo to end up as platypus bear food, do we? Today's third entry is pretty hilarious. The small but fearsome Toph Bei Fong is hands down a genius when it comes to earthbending, having invented metal bending and other cool techniques. But when it comes to her rock armor, something feels weird. While she was training Aang on everything earthbending, she covered herself with rocks. Everywhere besides one spot: her eyes. But why did she leave a gap right there? I mean, it's not like she can see or anything. Or at least not by using sight. Sure, she can't cover her whole face with rocks, a girl's gotta breathe, of course, but why not leave a space right in front of her mouth and nose? Unless there's something else we don't know about the greatest earthbender on Earth, and she can actually breathe through her eyes? I think that one's gonna stay in the CBR Unsolved Mysteries Avatar file for a little while longer. I know that family relations can get quite complicated at times. But when your own father disfigures you with fire for speaking your mind, I think it's time to turn the page and leave the family nest for good, don't you think? While Prince Zuko lost the only parental figure he actually loved when Ursa left the Fire Nation royal palace, he tried hard to impress his father, Fire Lord Ozai. With a psychotic prodigy as a sister, the competition was fierce to gain Fire Daddy's attention. But sending Zuko away and banishing him after burning him should have been the last straw for the prince. Instead of going on what seemed to be an impossible quest, shouldn't Zuko have set out to look for his mother Ursa? It's quite surprising that it took him 3 seasons and a whole comic book trilogy to finally search for her. Zuzu, you better get your priorities straight. For some reason, I can't seem to get along with earthbenders. But one of them that really irritated me was General Fong. Thinking he could use Aang to defeat Fire Lord Ozai, he tried to force Aang into the Avatar state as if he could control him, or even have Aang keep that state permanently. Of course, Aang did it before when he was frozen in ice, but it was more of a dormant Avatar state during these 100 years. Having the Avatar channel the Avatar state non-stop in fighting mode could result in some heavy damage on Aang. The fact that he died at quite a young age for an Avatar might be due to overusing Rava's powers during his long sleep. Now, Fong's idea was to attack Aang with the help of his soldiers, but the man totally crossed the line when he sank Katara into the ground. While that worked to trigger Aang into the Avatar state and Katara was actually safe and sound, Fong's methods were downright psychotic. It goes against everything Aang stands for, and if it wasn't for Roku's intervention, Aang might have brought down the whole city in his rage. Alright, now I know I've gone a bit crazy when it comes to creating or expanding elemental bending styles lately, but hear me out. Could Liebending be a possible thing? Don't worry, I'm joking about this one. I swear on Bolin's pretty face. But let me tell you one thing. I've never met a better liar than Azula. Well, maybe besides my ex. Anyway, Azula is pretty much evil incarnate, just like any 14-year-old girl, but one scene in particular made us doubt Toph's greatness for a moment. Throughout the whole series, Toph has been known to act as a lie detector using her seismic sense to feel if people's heart rates change. Well, when Azula lied right to her face, Toph couldn't tell at all if she was being truthful or not. This might mean that Toph's ability to detect liars is not as bulletproof as we all thought. Either Azula is A, an amazing actress, B, a total sociopath, or C, has literally no heart at all. I'm gonna guess D, all of these answers. When it comes to drama, the queens on RuPaul's Drag Race have nothing on Fire Lord Ozai. Surrounded by gigantic flames on a daily basis and having a flair for theatrics, the man is a total drama queen. But the ruler of the Fire Nation is not only dramatic in appearance, oh no my friends, he is the personification of evil itself. While the scarring of his son was an important event which set the course for Zuko's redemption journey, maybe the boy could have made a bigger mistake than just speaking his mind during a war meeting to deserve this? Did he deserve to be forced into an Agni Kai against his own father, one of the most powerful firebenders at the time? No, not really. The problem here is not really that Zuko spoke up during that boring meeting, but the fact that it was Zuko that did. I'm pretty sure that Ozai wouldn't have cared that much if Azula intervened. But again, Azula wouldn't have cared about sacrificing the lives of her own soldiers. She would have probably suggested something far more sinister, like dumping them in a volcano just for the lulz. Avatar might be set in a fictional world, but it follows some of the same rules we do when it comes to how Earth functions. The sun rises in the morning, the moon has different cycles, cactus juice makes you hallucinate. Oh wait, that's not cactus juice. Anyway, there's one small thing that doesn't make sense when it comes to the North and South Poles. Those two parts of the world should have two unique phenomena to their area called polar night and midnight sun. The poles basically experience daylight for 6 months, while they go through the next 6 months in total darkness. While I'm not sure why the creators opted out of this idea for the Avatar world, it could have been interesting to see it happen. Since waterbenders are stronger during nighttime, could that mean that their energy would increase exponentially during these 6 months of darkness? Oh, but on the other hand, if that was the case, it could mean that they'd be rendered less powerful against the Fire Nation for half of the year. Speaking of the sun, Zuko might want to revisit his elementary school firebending schoolbooks. After realizing that he had been on the bad guy's side all along and had been approaching firebending the wrong way, he decided it was about time to take a gentler approach to life. This is when he made the decision to begin channeling his firebending abilities from the sun itself instead of his hatred and rage towards basically every single thing that exists. The little problem here is that he's been doing that all along. Firebenders get their energy from the sun itself. It's basic firebending knowledge, Zuzu. On top of that, it's something he already knows. When Katara was keeping an eye on Aang in the episode The Siege of the North, and he still had that unflattering haircut, he clearly acknowledged that his powers come from the sun. While Katara had the upper hand during the fight since it was nighttime, Zuko became overpowered as the sun rose in the sky, blasting Katara with just one hit. You know, come to think of it, the sun did rise really fast, which is another strange thing to add to the list. Today's last entry is reserved to the chubby and loving Appa. While Team Avatar was busy trying not to get buried as Wan Shi Tong's library was collapsing into sand, Appa was having his own troubling adventure. After being kidnapped by a bunch of sandbenders and traded to a Fire Nation circus, the poor baby got mistreated in front of applauding spectators. He got hit by a fire whip and was forced to fly through hoops on fire. The episode, which by the way won an Annie Award for the realistic way it depicted animal abuse, might have been a bit over the top for a kids show, but kudos to DiMartino and Knitsko for bringing some kind of awareness about the horrors of the circus to a younger audience. Be kind to animals, my fellow benders. Under the latest Korra video, Prince Zuko himself writes, "I should have seen my uncle in the spirit world, and maybe Korra will guide me there." Wouldn't a reunion be amazing? It's okay, I'll go ahead and answer that one for you. Yes, definitively yes.